In the vast expanse of the universe, far beyond the reach of human understanding, there existed a rule, an ancient law that governed everything. Don't touch the humans. This rule wasn't just a law written on paper or whispered in myths. It was an unspoken decree, a cosmic directive that ensured the survival of countless alien civilizations and kept the delicate balance of the universe intact. No one knew exactly where this rule came from or who had established it, but it was universally recognized and followed by all beings, both powerful and weak. The universe was not as simple as many might think. It was a place where worlds and civilizations thrived, each unique in its form and function, each guided by its own set of rules and customs. Some beings were as old as time itself, while others were born only recently, yet they all had one thing in common: the understanding of the first universal law. It was a law that had been passed down through countless generations of civilizations, each one taught to respect it, to never, under any circumstances, disturb the humans. At the heart of the galaxy, in a distant and mysterious realm, there existed a council of ancient alien beings. These beings were far beyond the comprehension of humans. They had seen the rise and fall of entire civilizations and had watched the course of the universe unfold over millennia. The council was composed of the most powerful and knowledgeable entities in existence, beings whose power and wisdom were unparalleled. Their job was to ensure that the universe remained in balance, that no single event or entity could disrupt the delicate harmony that held everything together. For centuries, the Council had monitored the humans, watching from the shadows. Humans, with their unpredictable nature and unquenchable curiosity, were a strange and unpredictable species. While many alien civilizations had risen and fallen without much impact, humans had the potential to alter the very fabric of the universe. Their actions, driven by emotion and impulsiveness, often led to outcomes no one could foresee. Yet there was something else about humans, something that set them apart from every other species in the galaxy. It was the fact that humans, despite their inherent fragility, were unknowingly capable of breaking the most sacred rule of all, the rule that had been designed to keep them safe, to prevent them from ever being touched by the beings of the universe. This rule was not just about physical interaction. It was about the cosmic energy that bound everything together. When humans were touched by alien forces or technologies, they had the potential to disrupt the natural order of things. The balance of the universe could be shattered, and once broken, it would be impossible to restore. In the council chambers, high above the swirling galaxies, the most senior of the ancient beings, known only as the Overseer, was deeply concerned. His face, if it could be called that, was a mass of shifting energy, his form constantly changing, as if he was not entirely tied to any one dimension. His mind, however, was focused on the issue at hand. A disturbance had been detected, a ripple in the fabric of reality that could only be caused by a human violation of the first rule. The Overseer turned to his fellow council members, his voice vibrating through the chamber like the sound of an ancient bell. "The humans have done something," he said. "They've disturbed the balance. We can feel it across the galaxies. It is subtle, but it is there. The rule has been broken." Another council member, a being known as Star, who appeared as a collection of shifting shadows and light, spoke next. "Are we sure? Humans are known for their unpredictability. Could it not be a natural anomaly, a fluctuation in the cosmic energy?" "No," the Overseer replied, his voice steady and filled with a gravity that only a being of his stature could possess. "This is no anomaly. The disruption is too strong, too deliberate. They have done something that should not have been done." The council members fell silent, each of them reflecting on the implications. The rule had been in place for as long as anyone could remember, and it was designed to protect the universe from the chaos that could arise if humans were to ever fully interact with the cosmic forces. To break the rule would be to invite destruction, not just for the humans, but for every living being across the universe. But what had they done? What could they have possibly done to break this sacred law? The overseer's mind raced through countless possibilities. Had they discovered something they should not have? Had they made contact with a forbidden technology? Or worse, had they somehow unlocked the power to influence the very fabric of space and time? As the council deliberated, a young member of the council, named Orana, spoke up. "We need to send a team to Earth. We need to understand what has happened before it is too late." The overseer nodded, a wave of energy flowing through his being. "You are correct, Orana, but we must move quickly. The consequences of their actions could be catastrophic." And so, the council made its decision. A team of the most skilled and powerful beings would be sent to Earth. Their mission: to investigate what the humans had done, and to determine if the breach of the rule could be repaired, or if the universe itself would fall into chaos because of it. Meanwhile, on Earth, a group of scientists, unaware of the cosmic forces at play, were on the verge of an incredible discovery. Deep within the Arctic, buried beneath layers of ice, they had uncovered something extraordinary, a piece of ancient alien technology. It was unlike anything they had ever seen before. The object, a smooth, glowing crystal, seemed to pulse with energy, as if it were alive. The scientists had no idea what they had found. To them, it was just another fascinating artifact, a remnant of an alien civilization they had been studying for years. They had no understanding of the cosmic significance of what they had just uncovered. They simply admired its beauty and wondered what secrets it might hold. But as they studied it, something strange began to happen. The crystal began to glow brighter and brighter, emitting a low hum that resonated deep within the Earth. The air around it seemed to warp, and the scientists felt a strange energy coursing through the room. The temperature dropped suddenly, and the crystal's glow became blinding. One of the scientists, Dr. Evelyn, reached out to touch it, mesmerized by its otherworldly allure. As her hand made contact with the crystal, a shockwave of energy burst out, spreading across the planet. For the first time in history, the first rule of the universe had been broken. Back in the council chambers, the overseer felt the change immediately. His form flickered as if he were caught in a sudden storm. The energy of the universe was shifting, and there was no turning back. The rule had been broken, and there would be consequences. The universe was already beginning to react. The world had no idea. The people went about their daily lives, absorbed in the humdrum of modern existence. No one could have known that beneath the frozen wastelands of the Arctic, humanity had just triggered an event that would alter the course of the universe forever. Dr. Evelyn Carter stood in front of the glowing crystal, her hand still tingling from the contact. She wasn't sure what had happened exactly, but the intense surge of energy was undeniable. She turned around, her face pale, to address the rest of the team in the Arctic Research Station. We've never encountered anything like this before," she said, her voice shaky but filled with awe. This is not just a relic. This is something far beyond our understanding. It's alive somehow." Her colleagues, scientists and engineers, were equally astonished. They crowded around the crystal, peering at it from all angles, their eyes wide with wonder. The room was silent except for the hum of the glowing artifact, which seemed to grow louder with every passing second. "I've been working in this field for over 20 years, said Dr. Marcus Grant, the physicist of the team. "And I've never seen anything like this. It's like the crystal is interacting with us. It's like it's communicating with us." The rest of the team nodded, but Evelyn couldn't shake the sense that something wasn't right. She glanced back at the artifact, which now pulsed with a deeper, almost hypnotic rhythm. She wanted to take a step back, but an insatiable curiosity kept her rooted to the spot. The crystal seemed to call to her, a pull she couldn't resist. "Let's run some tests," Evelyn suggested. "We need to figure out exactly what this thing is. It might be the breakthrough we've been waiting for, a connection to an advanced alien civilization. Or..." Suddenly, the air around them began to vibrate. The temperature in the room dropped dramatically, and a chill ran down Evelyn's spine. The crystal's glow intensified, casting long shadows that danced along the walls like specters. The humming grew louder, and the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. "What's happening?" Dr. Ian Tanaka, the team's geologist, asked in alarm. It's like an earthquake." Evelyn's heart raced as she watched the crystal pulse faster, almost as if it were alive. Then the unimaginable happened. A blinding flash of light erupted from the artifact, engulfing the entire room. For a moment, time seemed to stop. The world around them disappeared into a sea of white light. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the light vanished. The room was silent. The air was still. The crystal was now dormant, its glow fading to a soft, gentle pulse. Evelyn and her team were left in stunned silence, trying to comprehend what had just happened. Her mind raced as she struggled to process the events that had unfolded. What had that light been? Was it a transmission? A warning? Or had they triggered something far more dangerous? "Evelyn, are you okay?" Marcus's voice broke through her thoughts. She turned to face him, her face pale, her mind struggling to grasp the enormity of what they had just experienced. I think we need to leave," Evelyn said, her voice barely a whisper. "Whatever we've done, it's not natural. We've disturbed something." But before she could say more, the radio crackled to life. It was their communication with the main facility, hundreds of miles away. "Dr. Carter, we've been receiving strange signals from your location," the voice on the radio said. "There's been an unusual energy surge in your area. We've been monitoring it, but the readings are off the charts." "What exactly happened?" Evelyn's stomach dropped. "We don't know," she replied, her voice tight. "But whatever we've done, it's big. You need to get us out of here. Now." There was a brief pause, and then the voice on the radio responded. "We're sending a transport team. But something's not right. The energy levels are escalating. You need to secure that artifact and stay put." Evelyn didn't need to be told twice. She turned to the rest of the team and gestured to the crystal. "We have to move it. Now." But as they approached the artifact, something strange happened. The crystal, which had been dormant moments ago, suddenly began to pulse again, its glow intensifying once more. The temperature in the room dropped even further, and the walls seemed to warp, distorting their surroundings. "Get away from it," Evelyn shouted, her voice filled with urgency. "We need to leave now." But it was too late. The crystal erupted with another blinding flash of light, and the entire station was plunged into darkness. The humming noise returned, louder than ever, and the ground shook with an intensity that made the walls of the station groan in protest. And then a voice, cold and ancient, echoed through the station, reverberating in their minds as if it came from the very core of the universe itself. "The humans have broken the first rule." The words sent a chill down Evelyn's spine. It was a voice unlike any she had ever heard, ancient and powerful, filled with authority. She froze in place, her mind reeling. What did this voice mean? What was the first rule? And why did it sound so final? Before she could process the implications of the voice, the crystal's pulse grew even more erratic. The entire room began to tremble as if the very foundation of the station were coming apart. The lights flickered, and the radio crackled again. But all they could hear was static. The communication with the outside world had been cut off. The team scrambled to get their bearings, but it was becoming clear that the situation was rapidly spiraling out of control. The crystal was no longer just a piece of alien technology. It was a force, a power that they could neither understand nor control. "We need to get out of here," Marcus shouted, his voice laced with panic. "This place is going to collapse." Evelyn nodded, grabbing her equipment. "Everyone, follow me. We need to find a way out before this gets worse." But as they turned to leave, the ground beneath their feet shook with such force that they were thrown to the floor. The lights flickered once more before completely shutting off, leaving them in total darkness. For a moment, all was still. And then, They heard it. The sound of something moving. Something massive, something ancient. It wasn't the ground shaking. It was something else. Something approaching. The crystal's hum had stopped, replaced by a low growl that vibrated through the very air they breathed. The air around Earth had changed. The subtle hum of the planet's usual energy field had been replaced by something darker, something foreign. A force, ancient and unimaginable, had been unleashed, and with it came a wave of cosmic disturbance that reverberated through the very fabric of the universe. The balance had been broken, and now, the consequences were beginning to unfold. In the Arctic Research Station, chaos had erupted. The previously dormant alien crystal now pulsed with an intensity that was felt around the globe. What had once been a quiet hum now shook the very air, vibrating through every corner of Earth. Dr. Evelyn Carter and her team had barely managed to escape the collapsing facility, their bodies battered and minds racing as they fled to the safety of the outside world. But even as they staggered into the icy wilderness, they could feel it. Something had changed. The sky, once clear and cold, had grown ominously dark. The stars, once twinkling with the serene glow of distant galaxies, now flickered erratically, as though they too were reacting to some cosmic disturbance. The very atmosphere around them seemed charged with an energy that made their skin crawl. The radio crackled again, this time with static and distortion. It was the voice of the outside world, but the transmission was barely comprehensible. "We're receiving unusual signals, off the charts, systems failing, massive energy surge." The voice faded as the transmission was swallowed by static, and then there was silence. Evelyn's heart pounded in her chest. "We have to get to the base now." Her team followed her through the snow, their faces pale and grim. They knew, without a doubt, that what they had uncovered, what they had unknowingly triggered, was no longer something they could control. The universe itself had reacted, and the ripple effect of their actions had only just begun. Across the universe, far beyond Earth, in the farthest reaches of the galaxy, the universe itself was reacting. The ancient alien beings, the ones who had watched over the cosmos for eons, had felt the shift. The violation of the first rule, the sacred law that had kept the universe in balance, had triggered an alarm that echoed across space. The most powerful beings in existence, those whose names were spoken only in hushed tones across galaxies, were now fully aware of what had occurred. Their long-awaited duty had arrived. The humans, ignorant to the far-reaching consequences of their actions, had unknowingly unleashed the wrath of the cosmos. The overseer of the ancient council, a being known only as Zoreth, stood in the heart of the council's great chamber, an immense structure that stretched across dimensions, its walls made of pure energy. His form was vast, an ever-changing shape of cosmic power. His presence felt across the stars. He could feel the cosmic disturbance, the ripple that started at the human's planet and spread outward. "It is done," Zoreth's voice reverberated, a deep and resonating tone that carried the weight of eons. "The humans have broken the first rule." His fellow council members, beings of unimaginable strength and wisdom, nodded in solemn agreement. Each had felt the disturbance in their own way. Some sensed it as a tear in the fabric of reality, others as an imbalance in the flow of time itself. They all knew the consequence of this act, and none of them were prepared for what was to come. Zoreth turned to the council. "Prepare the fleet. We must correct this breach before it spreads further." The humans struggled back on Earth. Evelyn and her team arrived at the nearest military base. As they entered the secure facility, they were met with confusion and fear. The base was in chaos. Soldiers rushed to and fro, their faces tense as they tried to make sense of the massive disruptions that had begun to affect every system on Earth. Electrical grids were failing, satellites were losing signal, and communications from outer space had gone silent. "We need answers," Evelyn demanded, her voice sharp with urgency. A general stepped forward, his face grim. "We've been monitoring the energy surge, Dr. Carter. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. It's as if the planet itself is being pulled apart, and we've lost contact with our space stations. Evelyn knew in her gut that this was only the beginning. The energy surge that had originated from the artifact had set off a chain reaction, and the universe, in all its immense power, was responding. The first rule of the universe had been broken, and now, the universe was coming to claim its balance back. "What do you mean, lost contact?" Evelyn asked, her mind racing. "Where's the satellite feed? What do you have from space?" "We've tried everything," the general said, his voice low. "But the signals, they're distorted. Whatever is happening, it's not just a local phenomenon. It's planetary. It's cosmic." Evelyn swallowed hard. "It's the crystal. It's not just an artifact. It's a key, a trigger." She turned to the team, her eyes filled with a determination that had only grown stronger since their harrowing escape. "We have to stop this. We have to find a way to reverse whatever it is that's happening. If we don't, Earth might be the first to feel the consequences of our mistake." As she spoke, the ground trembled beneath them. The sky outside the windows of the facility darkened, clouds swirling in unnatural patterns. And then, as if in response to their words, a massive flash of light erupted from the sky. It was like a supernova, bright and blinding, illuminating the entire planet. And then came the sound, a deep, guttural roar that seemed to come from the very core of the universe. Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. She knew then, without a shadow of a doubt, that this was no natural phenomenon. The universe itself had turned against them. "Get to the control room," she ordered. "We need to figure out how to stop this." The arrival of the fleet. In the cold void of space, the alien fleet had assembled. Ships of unimaginable size and power, each one a living organism, floated through the stars. They were the guardians of the universal law, ancient and unyielding. These were the beings who had long ago placed the rule into effect, ensuring that no species could disrupt the balance of the cosmos. The fleet moved in silence, but within the ships, beings of immense power prepared for what was to come. Zorath, their leader, stood at the front of the fleet, his form a brilliant explosion of energy and light. "Prepare for arrival," Zorath commanded. "We cannot allow the humans to continue. The consequences of their actions have already begun to unfold. We must act before their disturbance spreads further." As the fleet moved toward Earth, the space around them distorted, folding in on itself. The very fabric of time seemed to warp and twist, as if the universe itself was reacting to the intrusion. Zorath's mind was focused, his every thought directed at the task ahead. He knew what had to be done. The humans had broken the first rule, and now they would face the consequences. The coming storm. Back on Earth, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. The skies had turned black, filled with swirling clouds of energy. The sun, once a constant and comforting presence, was now barely visible, obscured by an unnatural darkness. A sense of dread hung in the air, thick and palpable. "We're running out of time," Evelyn said, as she and her team sat in front of the control panel, frantically trying to make sense of the data that poured in from every corner of the globe. The cosmic energy surge was continuing to grow, and the readings suggested that Earth was on the brink of total collapse. The systems that had once kept the planet stable were now in jeopardy. Suddenly, a voice came over the speaker, a voice distorted by static but unmistakable. "Dr. Carter, you must stop this. The universe is coming." Evelyn's heart skipped. She knew the voice. "Zorath," she whispered. The leader of the ancient council had somehow made contact. The universe, it seemed, was preparing to make its move. The screen flickered, and for a moment, the image of an enormous alien ship appeared. It was a ship like no other, a being made of light and energy, its form shifting and undulating with unimaginable power. And behind it, an army of ships, each one more terrifying than the last, loomed in the distance. "We must prepare," Evelyn said, her voice trembling. "We are about to face the wrath of the universe." The storm had come. The storm raged outside the military base, tearing through the sky like a ferocious beast. The thunderous roars of alien ships approaching Earth vibrated through the very air, shaking the ground beneath Evelyn's feet. It was as if the planet itself was trembling in fear. The universe had responded to humanity's transgression, and now the consequences were unfolding with terrifying speed. The fleet of ancient, powerful beings, led by Zorith, was closing in on Earth. Inside the command center, Evelyn Carter stood by the control panel, her mind racing. The data on the screen was overwhelming, flashing with urgent warnings and indicators of impending global collapse. The cosmic energy that had once been a subtle force was now a full-blown catastrophe, and the alien fleet was not coming to negotiate. It was coming to impose justice. "Dr. Carter," General Evans said, his voice strained as he stared at the monitors. "We've lost contact with all our satellites. The global grid is failing. The storm, it's only growing. Whatever is happening, it's affecting the planet on a molecular level." Evelyn didn't need to hear more. She had known this moment was coming since the artifact had first activated. The universe had warned them, but humanity had ignored the warning. Now the consequences were upon them, and no amount of human ingenuity would be enough to undo what had been done. "We don't have much time," Evelyn said, her voice steady despite the panic clawing at the edges of her mind. "The cosmic energy surge is growing exponentially. If we don't stop it, Earth won't survive this. And neither will we." Her eyes moved to the map of the alien fleet displayed on the screen. Thousands of ships, each one a living organism of unimaginable power, were now entering the Earth's atmosphere. The very fabric of space around them seemed to ripple, distorting as the ships approached. The fleet was vast, too vast for Earth to defend itself against. The aliens weren't coming for war, they were coming for retribution. "We can't fight them," General Evans said quietly, his voice filled with resignation. "What they're bringing, this is beyond anything we can comprehend. Earth has no defense against something like this." Evelyn turned to him, determination lighting her eyes. "We don't need to fight them. We need to stop the source. The crystal. We triggered this disaster when we interacted with it. But we can reverse the damage if we can find a way to shut it down." The room fell silent. The weight of her words hung heavy in the air. The crystal, the artifact buried deep in the Arctic, was the key to everything. It was the catalyst for the cosmic storm that was now tearing apart the planet. But could they really stop it? Evelyn shook her head, her mind racing. She thought back to the moment when they first activated the artifact, how they had foolishly assumed it was just an advanced alien relic. She thought about the voice they had heard, that chilling message from the universe itself. The humans have broken the first rule. The first rule had never been just a law. It was a force of nature. The balance of the universe depended on it, and now humanity had set it off balance. But if the first rule could be broken, perhaps it could also be restored. "We have to get to the artifact," Evelyn said, her voice filled with urgency. "We don't have much time. If we don't stop this now, it will be too late. The fleet will destroy everything. Earth won't survive." But the problem was more complicated than just stopping the crystal. Evelyn knew that the cosmic force behind the artifact had been set in motion. The crystal itself wasn't just a powerful relic. It was a key to the deeper structure of the universe, a force that resonated across dimensions. In order to reverse what had been done, they needed to shut down the cosmic force that had been unleashed. But how? How could they stop something that was more powerful than anything humanity had ever faced? "I'll go," said Dr. Marcus Grant, his voice firm despite the danger. "I'll go to the Arctic. I know the path. I know how to get there. You need to stay here and make sure we have the resources to try and stabilize the planet." Evelyn looked at him, her heart heavy with the weight of their shared responsibility. Marcus had been a rock throughout this entire ordeal. His mind was sharp, and his heart was just as steadfast. But even he understood the gravity of what they were facing. "No," Evelyn said. "I'm going with you." There was no time to argue. The team gathered what little equipment they could, knowing that they were about to embark on a journey that might very well be their last. Outside, the storm grew stronger. The sky was alive with unnatural energy, swirling with the colors of a universe in turmoil. The alien fleet continued to draw closer, and their only hope was to reach the crystal before it was too late. The journey to the Arctic. The journey to the Arctic was a blur of frantic preparation and uncertainty. Evelyn, Marcus, and the team made their way to the nearest transport vehicle, a heavily armored craft that would carry them across the frozen tundra. The storm outside had worsened, and the winds howled like banshees, pushing against them with unrelenting force. Yet they had no choice but to press on. Every minute counted. As they soared over the icy landscape, Evelyn's thoughts were consumed with the enormity of what lay ahead. She knew they were running out of time. The fleet of alien ships, each one capable of wiping out entire planets, was closing in on Earth. The cosmic energy that was threatening to destroy their world was still growing, and unless they could shut down the crystal, the universe would continue to punish them for their defiance. But something inside her kept pushing her forward. She had to believe that there was still hope. She had to believe that they could fix what had been broken. They arrived at the site of the research station, now a ruin, buried under layers of snow and debris. The crystal, the source of all their trouble, was still embedded in the ground, glowing faintly through the ice and snow. But the once bright light had dimmed, its power now more subtle, almost ominous. "Is it still active?" Marcus asked as they approached the artifact. Evelyn stepped forward, feeling the pull of the crystal once again. She could sense its energy, a powerful force that seemed to resonate through her very being. But this time, there was something different. The pull wasn't as strong as it had been before. The cosmic force had already been unleashed, and now it was a matter of whether they could control it. "We need to break it," Evelyn said softly. "We need to shut it down completely." As they worked to dismantle the artifact, the ground beneath them began to tremble once again. The storm outside intensified, and the air was filled with the sound of something enormous moving just beyond the horizon. "We don't have much time," Marcus urged. Evelyn nodded, her mind focused on the task at hand. She knew what they had to do. But as she worked to disable the crystal's energy core, she realized that it was more than just a physical device. It was a conduit for the cosmic forces that governed the universe. Her hand shook as she removed the final piece of the core. The crystal dimmed, and for a brief moment there was silence. The storm outside stopped. The world seemed to hold its breath. But just as they thought they had succeeded, the voice of Zorith, the leader of the alien fleet, echoed through their minds. "It is too late. The consequences of your actions cannot be undone. The universe will not forgive you." A brilliant light erupted from the crystal, and the ground beneath their feet cracked open, sending them tumbling into the darkness. Evelyn's vision blurred as she felt the energy of the universe rush toward her. But in that moment, she made a choice to fight for humanity's future, no matter the cost. With a final surge of willpower, she forced herself to focus. She called upon everything she knew, every lesson, every piece of knowledge she had gathered. She reached out to the energy of the crystal, willing it to stop, willing the universe to listen. And then, in the deepest silence, the light faded, the storm ceased. The aftermath. The world had changed. The alien fleet, once hovering on the brink of destruction, withdrew. The cosmic energy that had once threatened to consume everything had stabilized. Earth had been spared. The team stood in silence, the magnitude of what had just occurred settling in. The universe, it seemed, had found a new balance, and humanity, for the first time in history, had been allowed to remain part of it. Evelyn looked out over the horizon. The storm clouds had parted, and the sun shone through, casting a warm glow over the icy landscape. They had won, but at what cost? "The universe's first rule was broken," she said softly. "But we've learned something. We've learned that there's still hope." And with that, Evelyn Carter made the final choice: to believe that humanity could still find its place in the vast, unyielding universe.